Hey, and hey, happy Monday, and it's week, what is it, 4 of quarantine? Is that how we're counting this? I was really glad that I woke up this morning knowing that it was Monday. So again, success. Brute USRT. Hey, you were the first. Congrats. It's nice to have you join. Let's see if Freiburger's joined. Yes, he has. Hi. This is gonna be so exciting. I don't know why I'm super cryptic.
There I am.
There you are. Hey, I don't know why. I'm just like really excited to chat with you. I feel like it's been so long.
Oh, I know. When did we do that thing together at SEMA? It was like 3 or 4 years ago, wasn't it?
It was 2016, but then I thought, okay, so then I was thinking perhaps was that the first time we met, or had we met at the racetrack at Las Vegas Motor Speedway? Remember when you guys brought what did you bring to Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the show? It was like the Search for the Ultimate Streetcar. You remember that?
Oh.
Did you remember? I like vaguely was like, I think that was the first time we met, and then we met like, I don't know. I was like trying to piece together our circle of life.
Yeah, it might have been that because I think when we were together in Las Vegas, it was for that Optima
Full
Film
deal.
Festival thing.
Yeah, we should figure out
right.
a way to do that again. That film festival, like in theory, is a really good concept.
Yeah, how long did they do it? 2 or 3 years? And
Not
it
long.
sort of
I
fell
don't
down.
think long enough.
Yeah, you didn't go to the one that was at the bar in Las Vegas where they had Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, I think?
Nah, I missed that
no.
one.
It wasn't Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. It was Reverend Horton Heat. Yeah.
That's good. Was it good?
Yeah, it was a good time.
I was gonna say, I feel like I missed that one. I feel like I missed a lot during those SEMA times because our lives during SEMA are like, it's like you don't get a chance to do really anything except for what exactly you're doing. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah, totally.
It's like unless you are doing it, you're not doing anything else. That sounds weird to say.
Yeah, the past couple SEMAs, I've been booked like doing nothing but shooting the entire time, and I've seen you around doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. I just run by. I just laughed and chuckled at myself when I came in and interrupted your autograph session, and I think that was truly the last time. I came in real quickly, gave you a hug, and like peaced out.
And I appreciate it. I'm moving around here because I'm trying to fix my light. I'm all blown out.
Yeah. Aren't you a TV guy? Come on, you got this. Someone's asking where homeless Dave is right now. Where are you?
That's fully me. I'm sitting in my garage in LA, and I have to figure out this lighting problem because we're going to be shooting 2 episodes of Roadkill like via remote, like on the iPhone and GoPros and things like that here over the next month or so. So I've got to get this lighting sorted out.
Well, I'm glad we're taking it for a trial run right now. I'm happy to be the guinea pig. This is good.
Thanks.
I got you. I got you there. Okay, well, first, before we begin, I just wanted to, I typically try to, just say, hey, thanks to everybody who are not in the comfort of their garage or their shop or their home on their couch. Those who are still out and about and working and trying to help us and the world basically get some of this stuff under control so that we can all move forward in our life. Do you have anything to say on behalf of that as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think even people who work at grocery stores, I really appreciate them because think of the risk that they're putting themselves in every single day. And it's the thing that probably has more traffic than anything else these days. And so I appreciate those people as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Have you been out much yourself? Or are you?
We're quarantining pretty hardcore. There's a couple people in my neighborhood that have already caught it. And at this point, I know 5 people who have it, one of which who is a wobbler on whether they'll make it. So I guess that's really brought it home. And I have not left. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Like where it's like in the news, especially being LA area, like you and I both, like we had that, like we know it was going to be hit hard here, and but like until it really hits to where we are in our own worlds, it's like, oh, now it's real. Like my athletic director from high school, unfortunately, has been in the ICU, and you just sit there and you're like, okay, this is real now. This is real. So yeah, my mom and dad have both the pre-existing conditions, like the running list of it. So like I've been trying to lead them from afar. Dude, these old people are old people. My mom and dad, love you guys. They are social butterflies. I'll tell you, keeping them under control, it's wild.
My parents are in their 80s, and I can't make them stop their routine. They still like go to the store every Monday, go to the post office box every day. I'm like, dude, no, this is not the time. So
Yeah.
I
This is
see.
this is. I just saw Tom Morantz, my best friend's dad, just popped in here. Tom, you are not an old person, just so you're very aware. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. My mom was like, "Oh yeah, no, I got to go out and get binders," and I was like, "This is you don't absolutely you do not have to go get binders. There's no reason you need binders in your life right now. There's literally nothing."
Yeah, for sure. But you know
um,
what? I'm so tired of the news on coronavirus. Let's talk about something else.
Dude, I stopped looking at it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you have to.
I had to because at that point it was just, anyways. So hi, it's nice to see
Hi.
you. It's nice to chat with you. Hey, you know what I was thinking? How the heck did you get to where you are now? Like, what on earth? Like, how did it actually work for you?
So I I guess I've done nothing but work with cars my whole life. Right out of high school. Well, I had an auto shop in high school, worked at a Dodge dealership, worked at a machine shop, worked at a speed shop, and I worked in the aftermarket, which led me to meet a bunch of the magazine editors. So in 1991, I got hired onto the staff of Hot Rod Magazine. And ultimately, I was the editor of Hot Rod Carcraft, Four Wheel and Off Road, Rod and Custom, and Hot Rod Deluxe. And Roadkill, the show that I do now, was a spin-off of what me and Mike Finnegan were doing at Hot Rod Magazine. We were just making videos for the website. That's it. And then YouTube actually came to our company, which is the publisher of all of those magazines, Motor Trend, Hot Rod, Car, everything else. And at the time, they were trying to compete with cable TV. And so they gave certain channels a bunch of money to make original content just for YouTube. And our company was one of them. And so Angus McKenzie, who was the editor-in-chief of Motor Trend at the time, who was working that whole YouTube thing, he said, what you guys are doing on hotrod.com is amazing. You should turn it into a show. And we were actually working on a magazine at the time that I was about to launch called Roadkill. We're like, this name is so good, we're just going to use it for this show. And we did. And a couple years later, we became the biggest automotive show on YouTube.
Insane.
And
Your following.
Yeah, it was like huge.
Loyal and insane.
Yeah, it was insane and still is.
Yeah.
And then the company decided to pull off YouTube when they stopped getting paid by YouTube to make shows and do the subscription model, which is what we're doing now with the Motor Trend app. And they also took the former Velocity TV network, renamed it Motor Trend, and we air there as well.
Did you ever imagine like you would be on camera?
I did a lot of it actually when I was at Hot Rod, just because when you're the editor of Hot Rod Magazine, you get interviewed a lot. And we also had Hot Rod TV, which was produced by Bud Brutzman for a while. Yeah. And so, yeah, I was accustomed to it, but I certainly didn't expect I'd be at the point where I was getting recognized in supermarkets. That's very weird.
Is that happening?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Wait, what's the most bizarre? Hey, wait, by the way, hey, cheers.
Oh, cheers.
I really was excited for my mug for you, by the way. What do you have in yours?
Oh, that's a good one. The Bronco's good. Mine is just cola. I'm addicted to Coca-Cola, which is really bad.
Are you really? Is that like that's your advice of yours?
That's it, yeah. But still, it makes you fat, and it's loaded with caffeine. So yeah,
every little bit helps. So, okay, wait, going back to that. So, okay, you knew you were going to be on camera. I don't forget what I was. Oh, the supermarket. I want to know, what's the most bizarre place you've been recognized?
Okay, this is actually the worst. So I'm in an airport somewhere, and I'm standing at the urinal, and another guy comes up next to me, and he goes, "Hey, dude!"
Tell me it wasn't from one down to the next.
It was, and I was like, "Really? You're going to do this right now?" That was probably the worst. Actually, one of the greatest things is we were driving from, well, we drove the whole Alcan Highway from the United States all the way up to Alaska. And this was really early when roadkill wasn't really a thing yet. But when we got to the border, leaving Canada, entering Alaska into the United States, the border guards there said, "Hey, you guys are from Roadkill." And we were just mind blown, completely mind blown.
Totally. Like and so out of your element in that way, right? Like that angle, like this is so not what we were expecting at that point.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was cool.
That is super fun. I don't know what that would be like, but are you one of those people that wear sunglasses inside so you don't? Are you one of those guys?
No, I mean, I wear sunglasses a lot, but it's not to hide. I mean, I can't hide. What you see here is what you get on camera. There's no acting, there's no dressing up. So it is what it is. And I, unfortunately, Well, I say unfortunately, that's kind of mean. I do get recognized in a lot of places, but I really appreciate the fans. People ask me, do you get sick of it? And it's like, well, they're your customer. You're nothing without them. So no matter how bad of a mood you're in, you got to take a moment and appreciate them for giving you the livelihood that you've got. So yeah,
totally. But how do you switch that? Like, are you one of those guys who are like on, and that's something that like in the industry, whether it be, you know, I don't know, from the angle of if you're an introvert, extrovert, introvert, you know, like one of those ideas that like when you're on, you gotta be on like all the time. Does that get exhausting for you? Or do you like?
It does. I'm not a giant social person. I don't really interact with that many people in my private life, and so I definitely have to put on the
wild.
Yeah, be into it all the time.
So strange, the dichotomy of that, like how like different it could be in real life.
Yeah, no, it is. I probably have like 5 actual friends, and everybody else is just like really good acquaintances. So yeah, I'm not a big extrovert.
My mom always told me that if you have 5 friends, you're doing something right. And I'm like, that's kind of devastating in the course of life. But as I get older and the more we travel and the more we're out with people, the more I really value those handful of people. And life, you know, the idea of like, I was having this conversation recently about, this is going to sound ridiculous, like going out to like clubs and, you know, nightlife and whatnot. I'm like, as much fun as that is on a random SEMA deal, but like in that angle of like a weekend out, like I am lucky if I have a dinner with more than myself and whoever is in my close inner circle. And that is a big night out for me at this point.
Yeah, it is. You know, I travel so much. I really appreciate and like the aftermarket. Like I love so many people in the aftermarket, and I like the whole thing as a community. And I like the community of like all of us hosts who kind of know each other and live the same life. I'm really into that. It's not that I'm antisocial. I really miss that now that we're under quarantine.
Right? That's why I was super stoked about this and being able to have a drink. So thank you so much for taking the time, because like that's kind of I'm solo quarantining, and it's just one of those things where you sit there and you're like, I really just miss my like the acquaintances, the conversations, our chat, whatever that random run-in is like I do miss that. It's amazing how that kind of is brought to light. Is there anything else that you've like the last couple of weeks that you've been able to like clarity and stillness kind of a thing?
Yeah, you know, I haven't had. This is the beginning of my 4th week off, and I haven't had that since I was a kid on summer break. Literally,
how wild!
I normally am home about 5 days a month on average, and it's been that way for like 9 years straight. And before that, when I was a magazine editor, I would frequently do 36-hour shifts at the office. This is the first break that I've had in a long, long time. So
what do you do with yourself?
What have I done with myself? Cleaned out my garage and painted the living room.
What color did you go with?
It's like Jeep colors. It's army green and tan.
Oh, I love that. In the living room?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an interior designer. I'm just trying to think of how that would look in the living room. What color is your couch?
Sort of a mix of earthy colors. It's all very earth toned, wooden floor.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's been interesting to kind of like take a moment to sit there and think like, okay, like no better time than the present. Like there's stillness and there's clarity and stillness. Like these ideas that where you're just like, it's an important, I don't know, there's been some really good, interesting kind of life lessons in this like 4 weeks time of just kind of resetting. And even talking with like Rut and talking with a couple of the other guys, it's like, yeah, all of our worlds have been so go that like Rut was like, you know, some of those guys have like the whites of their eyes are brighter than they ever have been. People you know? It's like little things like that where it just makes a big difference.
You know, the thing that's interesting to me is how I think this is going to change the whole media world again. Because look at all the things that have come up with Zoom and with you and I doing things like this and the whole series that you've started. I think that's going to continue. And I think it's also going to be interesting to see how businesses recover and if there's more work at home now. Yeah. And what's just going to happen with the whole economy.
What do you think? I mean, what do you actually think is going to be the big difference? If you could visualize what that would be? Say our industry. What do you think it will be?
I wonder if there will be more emphasis on things like what we're doing right now and more live digital events. I mean, we do, even though our show is a web, it's basically produced with a really thin crew and without a bunch of fake drama. So will that continue, or will really the quality go down, but the fan interaction go up?
Because you're right, there is a give and take, right? There is a balance with that. If you do kind of I love that people are shouting in from New York and Italy. Thank you for everyone who's joining in right now. And it's so wild to be able to do this, but this is like so very much live that one of my best friends just called in, right? And that just happens, that it just kind of interrupted that for a moment. But what a difference. It is less quality, right? Quality feel, but there is something to be said about being able to have a quality then with the people interacting. Like what a different style. So that will be interesting to see how that shifts. We were talking about how we think SEMA will be a little bit different too this year, if at all. Have you heard any rumors yet about SEMA?
No, unfortunately, I bet it's going to be smaller than we've seen it, just because there's not going to be as many startup companies this year. And we've already seen AccuAir fold, which is an aftermarket suspension company. Right. They've already announced that they're done. And unfortunately, the longer this goes on, the more of that we're going to see.
Yeesh. Yeah.
Local small shops are going to be affected too. So we'll probably see fewer, spectators, for lack of a better word.
That's a good point.
It sounds so doom and gloom. I would love to say it's going to be fine. But...
Nah, but that's like part of you and what you're representing. You got to be that genuine, authentic version, right? Which I think like that's probably part of why you have such a loyal following. And I think it's interesting that in our world, like there are people who are authentic, and then there are people who play the part to be authentic, and then there are people who are just, they're on camera and they're off camera. How have you like developed that? Because I think that's why like that there's some wisdom in that you put out.
I've always just been a giant fan of truth, and I really hate fake. Yeah. And so that just trickles down to what I do. When I was a magazine editor, I always told it like it is, and we do the same thing on the show. We literally don't fake anything, other than sometimes we'll say something and the director will ask us to repeat it, or we'll have to set up one shot of us arriving, standard TV stuff, but we never make an outline for the show, and we never say, we need an act break here.
You don't do any, even from, that's wild. That's cool.
Nope, not at all. Basically, me and Finnegan will have a beer, or we've actually got a couple of other creative people, Brad, our director, Dustin, who's our showrunner, Taylor, our producer, and we'll sit around and go, what do we feel like doing and what can we actually pull off? And the next one that's coming up is us driving a supercharged Thunderbird from Mount Rushmore to someplace to pick up another project car. And what I just told you is the complete outline of the story. And then we show up and just do it.
I love that. Did you guys, from an improv perspective, is it just your guys' chemistry to be able to do that? Like, because that's the other thing. Someone once told me go to do improv, so I went to Groundlings in LA. Yeah. Which, by the way, I was terrible. And so, actually so bad that, like, when the teacher gave me my certificate to say that I passed the class, she also then proceeded to tell me that I should probably take it again before I go to the next level, which is fine. Not my strength, but whatever. But how much have you seen from, because it is an acting, I mean, so much of it, you got to be quick on your feet. So much, I mean, there's a hint of it that is, but how much of improv, or is it just the chemistry that you guys are kind of producing and that you guys have, the long-standing relationship?
Well, I would say in the early years, it was definitely nothing but our relationship and talking. The thing that's probably developed with us being on camera is I've got way more of a sense of story and understanding that I need to narrate for the audience as we go.
You're more that host role, the play-by-play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sort of am in the narrator role, but that's just me keeping in mind when we're doing something. I better look up right now and tell the camera what's going on. Whereas the director used to have to prompt me for all of that. So that's kind of what's changed.
Okay, now, of course, everyone wants you to talk about your little project that you guys charmed into this last 4 weeks and really have kind of started to develop. What is it, COVID 350?
Oh, yeah. That's, I've got nothing to do, and I'm trying to build an engine. Look, there's the cylinder heads right there. I'm trying to build an engine using nothing but parts that are sitting around my garage. And from almost 30 years of playing around with this stuff, I have a lot of junk. So I think I'm going to be able to pull it off. But what's interesting is I started doing that just for my own social media and for my own sanity. Yeah. And it turns out it's going to be part of one of the topics of an upcoming roadkill instead. So
no way.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah. So if you're quarantining by yourself, there isn't a Ninja Squad or anybody to help you kind of pull this together to be able to even then develop it into something for roadkill. That's wild. What's the most unusual thing you're using right now?
That I'm using?
Yeah, out of your garage.
A clean garage that I can walk into. It took me 2 weeks just to get it cleared out so that I could get in here. I normally get home from a shoot and just throw boxes in. And so I cleaned it all out, and it's novel for me to actually have a workbench where I can wrench on this stuff.
Is there anything though that you're pulling out? Like I see books behind you. I'm trying to see like what else I can find back there. Is there anything else that you're like, it's like a piece that you're like, oh, I never thought I would see this again, but I'm going to go ahead and use this in the build.
So I found these cylinder heads right here. I think I might use this fuel injection intake manifold that I've had for like, I don't know, 40 years.
Probably good.
I've got all of these intake manifolds right here to choose from.
Oh, wow. What a setup you have.
Oh, I have absolutely ridiculous volume of stuff. I think it's probably going to be too dark over here. There is my staff of camshafts. So I'll be finding a cam in there somewhere.
Somewhere amongst it all.
See this pile of boxes?
Uh-huh.
This is what the whole garage used to look like.
Holy cow.
I can now finally walk in here. So
yeah, I would say that Rattle and Rotary said you have a gold mine of parts in there. I'd say so.
Yeah, there's a lot of junk.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful junk. It's like treasures. It's like definitely treasures, not even close to junk.
Yeah, for our audience, this is a gold mine of stuff for sure.
Oh, what a creative, clever little thing to do there.
Yep. Well, it's same as what you came up with doing these interviews. I mean, you got to find a way to find your time and keep the mojo going, right?
I'll tell you what, like, it's been a blessing to have. I know for me, it was more of the angle to, like, try and bring some, like, positive news and some just, like, good old-fashioned conversation and something. Because, like I said, I signed off on news because I couldn't do that anymore. Like, for me, that wasn't. And so this has been a blessing for me, too, to be able to, like, have some, you know, routine and have something that's regular and know that, like, I'm looking forward to having chats with, you know, people about whatever it might be. And, yeah, I don't know. Okay, wait, I have to ask, is there any good news you have to share? Just, like, anything... Just something that's a positive. What you got?
Something that's a positive. Well, from the Motor Trend world, this sounds like a sales pitch or a plug, but the good news is that we're going to be able to keep content coming. We had enough stuff shot in advance that we've probably got 6 months worth of shows. And so anybody who is subscribed to that deal, they don't have to worry about running out. They are changing the schedule up a little bit to make sure that we have a consistent flow of things, but we're still doing stuff. So that's good.
Yeah, that is good. I think from that angle, I think that was kind of a fear of like, how is that going to be facilitated? I know that when this all came about, like Mika was still live for 25 and a half hours or so, but that's been a develop. Have you seen any of that iRacing stuff? Are you into like true motorsport, or is it more from the automotive side?
I love NHRA drag racing, and I am a land speed racer, so I follow that stuff. I'm very thin on other things. I was late to the uptake on the iRacing thing. Some friends have filled me in on that, and some people at Fox Sports have told me the wild numbers that they've actually been able to get out of that thing.
Insane. Like, it's gnarly what they've been able to do with it. It's crazy.
And that's another example of how I think the industry is going to change.
Right.
You know, what happens that now everybody's at home, they're dying for something new to watch, and they get hooked on that, and it's going to continue. Would it ever have otherwise had an opportunity to be as big as it is?
No, I mean, I covered the Forza Racing Championship, a little bit different than, you know, sim racing, but over the last 2 years, and even just from the development stage and trying to get that off the ground and what that took to really have a nudge to be able to be televised in any way, shape, or form, or I mean, let alone produced into a show. This was literally like 2 weeks time, and it was like, boom, all right, we're up, and we're like, it was wild. And Fox Sports, I mean, did a great job with that for sure.
You're still doing RTM, right? I
am not, and this is the first time I've ever said that.
Okay.
I actually was going to put together something, just as you well know, like my MO on just how close the group of people over at RTM and Power Nation were for me. Yeah, this is the first time I've said this out loud, I think.
Wow, triggered it.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
Give me the dirt. TMZ.
Yeah, no, so that ended my my last show was there at the end of December of last year. But I wanted to put together, I hadn't gotten to the point in my life where I could even wrap my head around the thousands of photos that I've taken in that studio with all the humans that I've loved, you know, that are near and dear. And but no, I'm no longer doing the Power Nation stuff, which it was a solid 4-year run. But with the changes of the industry, even, I mean, you know this better than probably anyone, from even content from going online into a digital, so pseudo network back to digital. How do you monetize it? Like, what is the angle there? I know that they've been really working hard on making some of those changes to make it, you know, a digital component, which meant my role, which was more of the feel good and the storytelling and the connecting with people. That role just kind of dissipated. But what was really cool about Power Nation for me is it allowed me to understand that, like, first and foremost, automotive and motorsport are really different, but there's so much overlap, but they are still very, very different. And like in my world, I came from motorsport, so that was really cool. But the other thing I understood is that I love the stories, and I love understanding like why name a car or build whatever you're building. What's the point behind that for you? Is it an emotional tie? Is it an ability to talk about it? Like, you know, that's the kind of stuff. And I think Power Nation, my role there really helped dive into defining what my role in my job truly has been in the automotive industry. But yeah.
Well, you were really good at it. I'm sorry that you're gone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You still doing the auctions?
Doing auctions. Yep, doing auctions. Got picked up by with the Fox shows for NASCAR, ARCA stuff as well.
Yep.
Which has just been a long-term goal of mine. I've been started work with the Peterson Automotive Museum to kind of go through the vault and tell the stories of the cars down there.
Cool.
And yeah, there's some cool things on the horizon. I mean, this took a little bit of a damper on it, but I think in general, you know, this is kind of what this is all about, is kind of redefining that. And to be honest, like, I've gotten so much clarity in 4 weeks by myself. I get a chance to like understand what I really want, what that target is. You know? What's your advice when you tell, actually I would be curious to know this because of your past experience. Like, what is your advice to people who are in our industry and they're still trying to identify what their value is in it?
You mean trying to figure out what they want to do for a living, basically?
Well, I think they understand their strengths, but they're trying to identify how they can add value into the industry and do something different than maybe everybody else who seems to have the same interests.
Yeah, that is a tough one. You know, I think most of the new jobs in the aftermarket end of the industry are social media. I think a lot of companies are still dinosaurs and they don't understand it and they do it really badly. And there's a lot of opportunity for them, especially in times like this. They're probably not hiring right now, to be honest, but I think that if you've got skills in that area, that you probably have a good foot in the door, probably by growing your own brand or even helping a local company and showing what you could do for them in order to go in and do it for one of the aftermarket companies. You know, I think the other positions outside of that are kind of still the traditional path of work hard, work endless hours. And like Bob Tasker, the funny car racer, always says, he's like, come in early, work hard all day, go home tired. I think that's the key. That's
super valuable information. I remember, my first time, I think I had a long dinner with a whole bunch of people and he was there and he had some wise words. Actually, he's a funny guy, Bob is.
Oh, Taska? Oh, yeah, Taska's hilarious.
But,
so how about you? Are you like available if we need Motor Trend hosting, or are you exclusive somewhere? You are?
No, actually I am. And one of the things I was thinking, I wasn't actually going to intending on asking you right now on the Senate, but I was thinking.
Think of this as a job interview.
Yeah. Thanks. That would have been good to know approximately, 28 minutes ago. So.
Right.
No, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that, like, diving in, again, what I understand, what I love is the car stories, right? And the people and the feel good. But I've been one of those people working with Truck Hero now as well. And we're talking about doing a Jeep build. And then we're going to go out and go on the Rubicon with Ian. And some of those things were like, which I'm super stoked on. But some of those things that I'd love to dive in deeper into. And I'd love to be able to rent my garage. Someone just said, can we see your garage? Interestingly enough, there's construction going. My house started leaking this morning. So there's construction happening all around. So I apologize if y'all have been hearing banging or whatever. But my garage, I would love to dive in. You know that I love my Broncos and my SUVs and my, and so I think from that angle, I wish there was absolutely more I could do. So yeah, but that's what's kind of a cool and shifting point right now. You're right. This is all changing. It's ever changing. And even, if we had taken like 10 years ago, you could have never been like, I want to host a digital show.
Yeah.
Right?
No, you couldn't have. There's no way to predict. Like, I couldn't have done my job path if I had planned it. There's absolutely no way.
Isn't that wild to think about?
Yeah.
What about the other thing I was curious about, and we have this conversation a lot with like classic cars and Mecum. How is it? And you get in early, you work hard, and then you go home tired, right? That same philosophy. in that angle of trying to keep the passion of cars and automotive alive, especially in the younger generation. How do we keep this wrenching idea and the passion of what that all is alive?
That is the challenge, of course. I mean, this is dinosaur level parts that I'm dealing with here. They haven't made a new car with a carburetor since like 1991, and that's most of what I deal with these days. I feel like one of the things I'm most happy about having done this whole career path at Roadkill is the amount of little kids who have gotten involved in cars because of it. I meet like 30-year-old dads with 10-year-old kids or 12-year-old kids all the time who are like, man, we got into cars because we watch Roadkill and we realized that if an idiot like you can do it, then we can do it too. So
it's all in love. It's all in love.
I hope that ends up with another generation of people who mess around with the stuff of my area. As far as the cars that are beyond my own personal realm, like electric cars and things like that, I don't think there'll ever be a limit of people who are willing to modify cars to go fast with them.
What do you think the future of that's going to be? I mean, Tanner and I used to always talk about the whole, like, keep driving fun, right? That's been, was his coming from Top Gear and the idea of, like, what the world is. How do we keep driving fun knowing that it's, like, a shifting? I mean, this is literally, we are in the middle of it shifting, and we're watching it happen, right?
Well, I do despise the whole notion of self-driving cars. I can't deny that. But I don't despise the notion of electric cars, and I think there's plenty of ways to have fun with those. I don't personally want to do it, but I can understand that they can be really fast and really fun. We do an event called Hot Rod Drag Week, which is 5 drag strips in 5 days, and you have to drive the car from track to track. Yeah. And we had a Tesla show up for the very first time, and he ran like 1070s every single pass. So that's fun.
Yeah, I saw something today. Okay, this is totally off nobody take this for truth, but I saw it on glance since I'm not reading news, but I saw it come across my screen saying that Tesla had still had really good sales over the last like week or so, or 2 weeks or so still. So people are still, I mean, it's a great car. I haven't driven it yet. I've ridden one. I haven't driven it yet. Have you been in it?
Yeah, yes, I have.
Do you have one?
I don't have one, no, but I have been in.
That would be a really strange car for you. I don't know why that would be really cool to see you driving your Tesla around town every so often.
It's a fish out of water, that's for sure. I think they're cool. They're just not my style.
What is your style? What's like day to day? What's your daily and or what do you have?
My true daily driver is a brand new Jeep JK that I've committed to keep completely stock and reliable. Yeah. But I'm also working on a 69 Mach 1 that I hope will be my legit daily driver. It's the first car I've actually put air conditioning and a radio in, so I'm that committed.
That is commitment right there. Yeah. Why did you go Mach 1? I mean, it could have been, you could have picked anything from, I mean, across the board. Why did you go with that?
So in an episode of Roadkill, we went to Colorado to a junkyard that had this car, and it had been in the junkyard since 1981. Just melting into the ground. It was all full of raccoon poop.
No.
Yeah, we call it the
perfect for Roadkill.
Yeah,
makes perfect sense.
It was awful, but for whatever reason, I fell in love with the car. I just thought it was great, and I decided to sink a whole bunch of money into it. Fixed all the rust and putting an interior in, new engine, 5-speed stereo, and all that junk, and leaving the outside looking exactly how it was when it came out of the junkyard.
That's wild. One of the things I think is interesting too, being in Southern California, is like being from Indiana, like it's a, completely different vibe across the board. Have you found that like the car industry is elevated in LA County? Like, do you feel like you have the people there? Do you have automotive renters? Or I know in Orange County, we have a lot of shops down here, a lot of good shops down here. But do you feel that way up there in LA?
It's not what it used to be. The speed shops are all gone, and there are fewer performance shops than there used to be, but there's still a lot of business happening for sure.
Yeah, that was always something that, just from that angle of what LA kind of represents, I wasn't sure if the car culture, I mean, obviously Peterson Museum, there's other ways to kind of, but I wasn't sure if they really had if it was strong up there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm in Burbank, which is like very close to where hot rodding was born.
Dude, I didn't know you were in Burbank. I spent every Saturday in Burbank all spring.
Oh, really? Doing what?
We shot the Forza Esports, the racing championship.
Oh, there. Oh, right.
I would have gone and got you a coffee or Coca-Cola.
There you go. What studio was that at?
We were at NGE, I believe was what it was.
Oh, I don't know that one. Huh, okay.
No, I mean, I sights and sounds of Burbank. That's a good. It's a good area where you feel like you're kind of still like LA, but you're kind of not.
Yeah, it's its own city. It's actually extremely cool, and we've got Disney and NBC and Nickelodeon, and go on down the list. Burbank
Did you
is
ever?
what people think of as Hollywood.
Isn't that bizarre? Isn't that wild? How kind of the mythbusters of when people come out to LA, like
Yeah.
the true mythbusters of like, oh, there's dirt, like the stars on the ground. I don't know. I'm not. I used to live in LA, and I haven't moved back up there since I don't know 2014 or so. But like
Yeah.
how there's so many myths that are busted when they actually landed LAX.
Yeah. Oh, I know. LAX is the absolute worst.
I just find it one of those things where people come along and they have such different expectations than what LA kind of represents. But okay, so someone said when you're not working on cars, what else are you doing in your normal life? What's your personal life like?
I don't have one because I've been home. I mean, I have a wife and kid, and I'm home 5 days a month typically. So I spend all my time with them. My kid and I like to go out four-wheeling. He's now 12. He's been driving since he was 5.
So cool.
Yeah, we'll go do that. And I really like history stuff. I like local history.
Local history of like LA or like like local just like Burbank history or
all history. I would say I'm interested in stuff from the 30s up till now, just about anything in society and human development. I really like going to old buildings and seeing the way they designed things back in the day, stuff like that.
Sometimes I have a hard time realizing that and same with me, I very much appreciate architecture and just the builds and understanding the mindset of where people were at that time to be able to create something so magnificent or so bizarre or so unique in that way.
Yeah.
And envisioning, how do they get, 10 stories up without, the technology and the abilities that we have now. But I had this conversation last night with somebody that we were talking about, this is really bizarre, but you're talking about history. What era do you think you should have been born in at what point in your life? Meaning that I love Frank Sinatra. I love like a cigar bar, old steakhouse feel, like very like just, I don't know, the idea, classic cars, of course, like this idea of like the 50s. But I don't know that I should have been born in the 50s, and maybe it should have been my 20s and 30s. Like what about you?
I think everybody likes 2 generations before them, or maybe the immediate generation before them. I probably should have been born in like 35, somewhere around.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm really interested actually in the history of the aftermarket and of hot rodding. And what's fascinating to me is how hot rodding started in Los Angeles, call it Gardena, Compton, that area. And it spread, guys racing at the dry lakes, a little bit of industry before the war. And then in the war, all the California kids went out and spread the news in foxholes all over the world. And then those guys were taught by the military how to do, engineering, wrenching, flying. I mean, go on down the list. And they came back and they started the whole industry. I mean, Vic Edelbrock before the war, Robert E. Peterson, who founded the publishing company, Alex City, a SoCal Speed Shop. You can go on down the list of all of these guys who returned from the war and created the hot rodding industry. And I would just like to see that.
Do you think that there's anybody in that time that was there anybody that you had the chance to meet that was influential to you? Or is there anybody now that you kind of wish was either still alive that you could have dinner with or?
I feel very fortunate to have been able to meet a lot of the pioneers
right.
of my job at Hot Rod. I just spoke to Alex Exidius the other day. He was on his 98th birthday. He is just a fantastic gentleman. I love that guy.
I didn't realize he was at that age. Wow.
Yeah, 98. And so
is he healthy?
Pardon me?
Healthy?
Oh yeah, he's in good shape.
So good.
Yeah, sharp as a tack. And Ed Iskandarian, of course, is 98 or 99, and so he's still around. I would say one of the biggest heroes I was able to meet was Wally Parks, who was the first editor of Hot Rod Magazine and the founder of the NHRA.
Oh, that's a good one. Gosh, that would have been. I would have been curious. I have a lot of questions about NHRA. It's a type of motorsport I haven't covered yet, but I would love to. From the speed, the power, the smell, the adrenaline. You know what? You've done the shell. Have you done the shell stage over at SEMA and the quick reaction on stage with any of those guys?
Oh no, I haven't done that one.
I was a swimmer too.
Do you mean on the NHRA stage?
No, it was a Shell Pennzoil stage at SEMA, like where they have skid marks, I think is, you know, the show there. But they have like Christmas tree and a reaction and a game throughout the whole week of SEMA and like a fast reaction time. And
yeah, no, I haven't done that.
I was a swimmer growing up my entire life, and I had one of the fastest. So I competed at nationals. It's a long story. This is for another drink, another time. But my reaction time was the asset that I had to any of my swimming. Was like I had one of the fastest reaction times in the United States at the time that I was competing at that level. And I've always thought it would be so amazing to get into a car and at least try to do anything within the NHRA. Like it would be wild just based on reaction times alone and the power and the speed and the feel. God, it's so good.
Women do really well in it. There's a lot of them.
Why do you think that is? Is it, I mean, why do you think women do so well in it?
It's the only sport where women compete head to head against the men on an absolute equal platform. And I think they're good at it because reaction times are really good and also because they're light.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's actually a fair point. Someone just asked, do you think hot rodding began out of necessity?
Well, I will say that the generation that really started hot rodding was born of the Great Depression. I know that that's true of Wally Parks, who I mentioned to you, and Alex Exidius. Yes. They learned how to make do, and I think that was a big part of hot rodding right after the war because they were doing cars out of junkyards and they were building with used parts initially before the aftermarket began. And so, yeah, I don't know if it was necessity. I mean, we often say that we work in an industry that absolutely no one actually needs.
It is definitely not the essentials on the list right now in the overall grand scheme of things. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really even thought about it from that angle, and the shift of it. I mean, that's another thing is I imagine the classic cars of what, you know, we always are trying to identify at Mecum what are going to be the classic cars of the future, right?
Right.
And how you've seen in hot rodding, it takes like a specific kind of person to really gravitate towards that, and I don't know what I don't know. I wouldn't be able to define that person, but it is somebody who I think it is somebody who there's a reason someone is a hot rodder. What is that? Why is that?
That's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of interest in history that I think drives it for people my age. It's the old, you know, I want to build the car that I had when I was in high school, that I wanted when I was high school. It's like that midlife crisis of trying to relive your youth. I think that's an enormous part of it. People who want to go fast. People who want to go fast, like pure drag racers, I think it is a mechanical challenge and a personal challenge. It's the same of like, why would you want to be a football player? Why would you want to be an incredibly successful businessman? It's just where do you point your energies at trying to be the best that you can?
Yeah, I just find that always, you know, and that's why I ask you about that Mach 1, that idea of like, what is it? I know what I gravitate towards, and I think it's interesting. We see that at different kinds of Mecums and, you know, Cars and Coffee. Do you guys have a Cars and Coffee you go to?
Yeah.
Which one? I want to come. I want to go to that.
Oh, well, I don't attend because I'm always out of town, but there are a few around here. I think if I had time, I'd probably come down near you and go to the donut.
Alicia Viejo?
Aren't you in Newport?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You're kind of close to where they do Donut Darrow, like in Huntington Beach, right?
Yeah. Right down the way, around the corner.
Yep.
Yeah, any of those you ever come across too that you know of? I'm now home more now with this recent time in our life. But I think that's been something that I've said before when because I'm the same way. I'm 250 plus days on the road as well. But that is something I wanted to kind of refocus is kind of getting involved in the Peterson Museum and what that kind of meant. And any of those other Cars and Coffees or events, like, you know, pass them along. I'd love to go hang out when I'm around, which isn't often, but when I am.
How often are you going to be at the Peterson?
Well, initially before, I don't know what we're going to call this time in our life right now, but before this moment of our life, we had started out, it was meant to be, it was going to be about 20 shoots over the course of this next year. And it kind of came about because I had seen that they needed some content on, and they have such wild stories. I mean, some of those you've been before at some point. Sure. And the stories of some of those cars in the vault are just wild. Things that you like, you can't even imagine are true. And then there's others who are just like, you know, movie cars, But I still think those are fascinating for people who don't get a chance to go around movie cars often enough to see. Some are bare bones, some don't have anything in them, some, you know, what they look like or
Yeah.
But we started out, it was supposed to be 20 shoots. I saw that they didn't have a lot of content, so I pitched them a concept of like, hey, like, is there a way we can collaborate? I love the stories and the emotional side of cars and vehicles and what that really means. And noticing that, you know, digital content is something that we could really bring to life there. And it just was kind of that right time, right place until it wasn't, which is now. But in theory, yeah, it was supposed to be throughout the 2020 to kind of tell the stories of the vault. So we'll see what happens. And Brian McCarthy says he's around movie cars daily. Luckily, yeah, it's a cool industry. And that's the other thing. Have you done much with movie cars?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of my cars is in Fast and Furious. I was just thinking Brian McCarthy, I wonder if he's related to Dennis McCarthy, who is the car sort of wrangler for all of those Fast and Furious movies, as well as others. And my dad grew up in the industry, and so my first car, which is a Dodge Super Bee, actually was used in a movie directed by Henry Winkler when I was 17 years old.
No way!
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
What movie was it? Do you remember?
It was an after school special about not drinking and driving called All the Kids Do It. And it had Scott Baio and Danny DeVito. And,
oh, so wild.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I'm not a celebrity person. Like, I would see somebody who would, like, you could see Tom Cruise, and I'm like, oh, that guy has some swagger, or that guy has some expensive jeans. But, like, I like, don't associate celebrity. Henry Winkler is the only guy, and I have seen him 3 times in my existence in both LA and when I lived in New York City.
Oh, really?
I've seen him 3 times, and for whatever reason, I'm like, there is a serendipitous thing between Henry and I don't know what it is yet, but that is wild. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Someone just asked how you look so young. How do you look so young? What's your secret?
What's my secret? I feel I look haggard. That's the problem.
Nah, that was someone just shout out to, I don't know who it was, but shout out to you.
It's my mom. It's probably my mom.
God bless her. God bless. Okay, real quick, is there anything else too in your career that you'd want to accomplish, or any build that's like you're really itching that you haven't been able to do yet?
I've always wanted to drive a funny car, and I haven't had an opportunity to do that yet. And someday I hope to go to Frank Hawley's drag racing school in Florida and actually do it.
I imagine that should be on your near bucket list. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's insane. I just imagine sitting behind the engine and having the body flop down around you, and you're all claustrophobic and everything. I think it's great.
Don't you know enough people to get that to happen?
If I had time, yeah. No, I could make it happen if I actually had time. The other thing is I'm in the 200-mile-an-hour clubs at 5 different places, and I want to do it at El Mirage Dry Lake, which is really where it all began, and it's the most difficult one, and I've been 195 backwards there twice. So we're working on getting into the 200 club at El Mirage.
Can we talk real quick about the salt flats too? I mean, if you're doing speed, land speed, have you ever been out to Bonneville and done, I mean, I'm sure you have, but in the idea of like from saving the flats and what that really means and kind of what that represents as a whole?
I've set 12 records there, all of them between 225 and...
Cheers to you! I didn't realize you had 12 records there.
Yeah, some of them have been beaten, but I think I've got at least 3 or 4 other records in the book. Yeah, the whole Save the Salt thing is pretty critical because the past couple of years, the salt has been real questionable. And it's a strange situation where that's a case where the environmentalists and the hot rodders should be seeing eye to eye, but the environmentalists don't seem to care. It's the strangest thing.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah. It is.
What is that about?
Why don't they care? I don't know. Because what they do is the salt flats used to be like several feet thick of crust, and it's potassium and salt. And what's happening is that they're sucking the potassium out from underneath, like out of the water table under the salt, which brings some salt with it. And they use it to make salt and potash, which is used in making cement. And that's been going on for 50 or 60 years, and it's made it so that the crust is like an inch thick, and at some point will pop through to mud. And they've tried pumping salt water back out on there to get the salt to settle on it. But the problem with that is that like it needs the gypsum or potash or something like that to actually adhere the salt to itself, and that's missing.
Oh, that makes sense. Interesting. Yeah, that's been something I've been following along a little bit. I think ever since it was SEMA like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and there was a big campaign to save the salt, and I Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's, but that it goes back to like that idea that like I'm a firm believer in woodworking in cars, right? And that idea to make sure that we keep these little traditions and these ideas alive that you know in future time we won't have if people don't advocate for it. People I wanted to know about the Finnegan's 200 mile per hour Cadillac. What's the deal?
Oh, I don't think that's actually happening. I think he's changed his mind and he wants to turn that. I think it's a 1961 Cadillac into a drag car instead. Yeah.
Not bad. Not too shabby. There's nothing about Cadillac loves some caddy.
Are you watching the time? I think Instagram cuts us off at an hour.
I think it's probably about that time.
So,
and I'm gonna learn my lesson from you on this one. But I appreciate your time and I appreciate the conversation. And I know we didn't get to all the questions, and I'm sorry about that. If there's anything real quick, we can. What's your best thing about your job? What can help increase horsepower? That's actually probably
generic.
So in general, I appreciate it, and thank you so much. This has been a joy, and I was really excited, like I said, to show you my mug. And I'm
happy to see your mug. You are like one of the most pleasant presenters there is. I'll really miss seeing you on TV, and I hope that we can come up with some jobs for you. It'd be cool.
Hey, you know, after this hour of us getting cut off here, I'm happy to then follow up on another conversation. And I do actually have a concept that you might be interested in, and it would have to do with keeping the passion alive, but involving it from a completely different angle. So maybe you and I can have a separate conversation.
Okay.
As well, but
spilling your guts in front of the audience like we did earlier.
Yeah. Well, I like to think that what you see is what you get. I'm pretty much genuine. I hope that I come across, and if that means I'm authentic and genuine, and what you know, it's a real conversation then, and that's exactly what I wanted with this, and to really catch up with you. So thank you for doing so.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. Who are you?
You're welcome. The what?
Who's next?
Next on the list is Jared Deanda, and then Christy Lee is coming up. So
cool.
Tony Angelo. So we have some good ones coming down as well. But if you have anybody else, like, send them away. I mean, pass them along. I'm happy.
Okay. Cool.
I think Chris Jacobs. I reached out to him. We'll see.
All right, will do. I'll text you.
Yeah, please do. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
See you. Bye.